Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. According to the book of Shmot, according to our Torah, yesterday was not only the first day of the new moon, the first day of the new month of Nisan, but it was also Rosh Hashanah, New Year's Day, the first of the year, the first of the Hebrew calendar. Not only does this month get a special name, Chodesh HaAviv, the month of the spring, but there is a note about Nisan that must not be overlooked. There it is written, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chodashim Rishon Hu Lachem Lechodshei Hashanah. This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the month of the year for you. And then it goes on to describe the rituals for Pesach. Pesach is coming. We should feel it in the weather. We should feel it in our kitchens. We should feel it in the lists we're making so that everything is just so on the Seder table, the lists that we're making for inviting guests, for receiving guests, and for being guests. And we can help with that, by the way. We can help to make some good matches if you're looking for a guest or if you'd like to be a guest. The entire Jewish calendar is constructed around this attention paid to the month of Nisan. This mitzvah is what has made our rabbis construct this incredible calendar without a computer, without the internet, without knowing too much about the cosmos and how it works. They constructed this perfect calendar, which is a perfect blending of the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. Ramadan has just begun for our Muslim friends and neighbors, and you know that Ramadan floats throughout the year, throughout the seasons of the year, because they keep a pure lunar calendar. But our calendar is this merging and blending of lunar and solar. So back to that verse, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, this month shall be for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the month of the year, Lachem, for you. What is the meaning of that word Lachem? It seems superfluous. It would have been enough to say this month shall mark the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the month of the year. That would have been plenty. So why Lachem? And why Lachem twice, as if to emphasize? Don't miss the point. It is for you. Our sages teach that this was God's way of saying that the calendar and the keeping of time, the measuring of our days, is for your sake. And it is for you to do. There's a Talmudic debate that takes this teaching to an extreme. Really, the rabbis go to this radical place to prove the point, just how seriously we take this invitation, this human responsibility of timekeeping. The rabbis determined that New Year's Day, Rosh Hashanah, will not fall in Nisan, but rather Tishrei, in the fall, right? They break away from what seems to be implied in Torah itself, that Nisan, in the spring, when the whole world is waking up, that's the beginning of the year. And through the rabbinic tradition, it turns out, Lachem, it is for our sake that we keep the calendar the way we intend to keep it. We can make this change because God said so. God said, Lachem, for you. I give you permission. God set the orbits of sun and moon and planets into motion. All have their God-given cycles. Why then is timekeeping given over to a human endeavor? God has no need for time. When your name is eternity, Time is meaningless. So says Shlomo ibn Gabirol, the poet of the 11th century Spain, who gave us Adon Olam. Vehu haya, vehu hoveh, vehu yihiyeh b'tifara. God was, is, will be. God is infinity. God is for all time. And so timekeeping and measuring is not God's business, but our business. Now, we don't like to talk about it very much, but we are mortal. And so keeping time is a great teacher. God intended timekeeping to be a device for reminding us to use our days well and to fill them with meaning. Some of you know I just returned from Cincinnati, Ohio, where I received an honorary degree. I earned it in no way other than surviving 25 years in the rabbinate. It was great to be back on the impressive, original campus of Hebrew Union College. It was Founders Day yesterday, when we remember Isaac Mayer Wise and the other leading figures of the College Institute, which, by the way, houses the largest Jewish library outside of the land of Israel and houses the American Jewish Archives as well. So it really is a treasure, not only of the Reform movement, but of Jewish people everywhere. This trip was made even more meaningful for me because I got to share it with our temple president, Phyllis Denneberg, and our past president, Judy Winberg. It was really so thoughtful of them to join me for the occasion. The trip was made even more meaningful because I received my hood from one of my teachers and a longtime family friend, Rabbi Dr. Gary Zola. Some of you remember him. He's come to teach at Holy Blossom a number of times as our scholar in residence. And this trip was made more meaningful because I got to see Rabbi Karen Tomashow and Rabbi Zachary Goodman. And not only that, but Rabbi Tomashow gave the address for the occasion, and it was knockout, really. Such a well-deserved honor and a beautifully, masterfully crafted message for the day. And it was also made meaningful for me because I got to see my second and third cousins. And all those little cousins are now grown up and they have little ones of their own. And so I became acutely aware over and over and over again about the passing of time. Not only returning to the place of my childhood, not only returning to visit my teachers who are getting older and still wiser, everywhere I looked was a reminder about the passing of time. Even these little cousins, I brought them Roots t-shirts and Smarties. Before the ceremonies began, I gathered with my classmates for an hour of study with the provost of Hebrew Union College. And of all texts, she chose Psalm 90. So I invite you now to open up your prayer book to page 342. Because while much of the world tries to pretend away the passage of time, our sacred texts lift it up and make it sacred. A prayer for Moses, man of God. And some suggest that we can read this like a eulogy for Moses. The first stanza establishes that God is forever. Adonai, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before mountains were born, before you brought forth earth and universe from eternity to eternity. Me'olam va'ad olam ata el, you are God. The second stanza establishes the fact that we are not forever. You turn mortals to dust. You decree, return, children of the earth. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday, gone as a watch in the night. The span of our life is but 70 years, or given strength, 80 years. The psalmist keeps it real. A full life is 70 or 80 years. Consider yourself lucky to have a full life. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by swiftly and we fly off. And as I was studying this verse with my classmates and friends, I saw it in a new light. We talked about all the good people that we have buried over 25 years, all the life examples that we have studied and honored. And we know that they worked hard during their days, that some struggled, some succeeded, but they all toiled. There can be effort and burdens carried in a lifetime, but at the end of our days, we fly off. We are light as air. We can set down those burdens at the end of our days and be uplifted Godward. And then comes the clincher of the psalm, really the hinge verse. Everything pivots now. Teach us, therefore, to number our days that we may attain levav chokhmah, a heart of wisdom. Timekeeping is our teacher. Being acutely aware of the passing of time is where we find our wisdom. And what is the seat of wisdom? Not the mind, but the heart. And then the psalm concludes. You can turn your eyes to the next page, to those concluding words. U'ma'aseh yadeinu konena aleinu, u'ma'aseh yadeinu konenehu. Let the work of our hands endure for us. Let the work of our hands endure. The voice of the psalmist here is pleading. Please, God, let something of what I have done with this lifetime endure. I know that my time is short, but let my contribution somehow remain, even beyond me. So, secular society says, wash away the gray and use this surgery or this magic cream for wrinkles, and we put our cemeteries on the outskirts of town, out of sight, out of mind. But in Jewish tradition, sacred timekeeping is to be held up, to be acknowledged, and to be celebrated. Morning and evening after morning and evening. We do it through the ritual of prayer. We do it through the ritual of holidays, Seder after Seder. We sit at that table and we feel that we are changed. We're not the same as we were last year when we sat at that table. Some people are missing now. Thank God others have come into the world and we have grown. And I want to recognize the mourners among us. You are acutely aware of the passing of time. And soon we'll recite Yizkor on the 7th day of Pesach to reinforce this Psalm 90. So it's not to frighten us, God forbid, but it is to teach us. It is to instruct us. We don't pretend our mortality away. We lift it up and study it. We examine its value, and yes, we make it sacred. Lachem, God says, it is for you, it is for your sake, that I command you to keep and to measure time so that you may attain a heart of wisdom. Shabbat Shalom. Aleinu l'shabeach, page 139.